Thank you. It's nice to be again here at Hack.lu. Last year I gave already a talk here about smart locks and their insecurity, and now I have something about smart ships. So how to hack a yacht. And I call it sometimes also swimming IoT. Yeah, short introduction, how it maybe could be.
Die, dickweeds.
A rabbit is in the administration system.
Send a flu shot.
Rabbit, flu shot, someone talk to me.
A rabbit replicates till it overloads a file, then it spreads like cancer.
Cancer? It's the Gibson, it's finding us too fast.
Man, there's too many garbage files. I need more time.
But that should be enough for today. So, or we could also look at later. It's on YouTube, I think. Yeah, the attack that we have seen in this small video from 1996 in Hackers, at that time it was fiction, but nowadays it is already reality. So I have already seen attacks where someone tried to modify the stackling of containers and bring ships or container ships out of balance by changing changing the load plan for a container vessel and putting the heaviest containers on top and the lightest one below. So that is already a real life scenario about that. So fiction in the video and now it is reality. Okay. What we have in here more. So why hacking yachts? So why not hacking container vessels or something like that? So my idea was about yachts are mostly owned by rich people, by CEOs running their businesses from that. So all those valuable targets are swimming on the water and doing their business on there, or about celebrities. So many of the actors or show stars, they have a yacht or charter one and floating around on the water and in orgies in Saint-Tropez. And then you're just sitting there at the beach with your equipment and maybe have access to the TV from the celebrities on the ships. So could be also a solution for that. So how to come on remotely on those boxes, that I will show you in this talk. Yeah. A little bit about me. My name, you know already. My Twitter handle is obiwan666. I'm older than the internet. Everything started with my Commodore in 1983, and I'm certified as you can read, so it doesn't matter. I'm an electronical specialist, so I learned it in the past and then extended my knowledge in the military, where I joined it for 7 years and was an electronic specialist for navigation systems for helicopters. Also, I'm a volunteer firefighter since 31 years now. That's one of my biggest passions. In my company, I'm, let's say, a security evangelist. I'm taking care about all those stuff about security. We have a security department, but in some cases, I'm doing a little bit more. As I know, I work in the oil and gas business at the Rosen Group and also for the certification, that's the spin-off of our company. I avoid warranties because I always want to know how things are working. So buy stuff, looking if it is working, and then open it and to look how it is working. And volunteering, as already said, firefighter, but also I belonging to a group called Geraffel. And I have seen here also one member of the I'm the Cavalry group, and I'm volunteering there also and spread my information in the maritime group there. Yeah. what happened last year, for example? So a few newspapers about yachts and hacking against that, and a short overview about some accidents that happened last year. So there were a couple of GPS jamming stuff reported, and also the US Navy had last year 4 incidents with their warships. So at that time, then I think, well, okay, they have a warship, they are very well-trained navigation officers on board, but they crashed with 4 of their ships in other ships. So how could that happen? So quickly rumors came up about, maybe someone has altered navigation systems or hacked into that, or spoofed GPS signals also. And that was then the thing where I then started, okay, yeah, not at that time I started, so that was also some kind of thing, so maybe there is something really interesting in, going on that. Then I had the opportunity to work on a yacht for a couple of weeks, so I extended the system that they have internet access on board while they are traveling, and there I saw then some other things, what's going on, and those things that I will show you here now. Yeah, vessels, yachts, and ships. So, a yacht is just a meaning, a Dutch word from hunting. So, the Dutch word yacht is more from, when you translate it, it means hunting. And the Dutch Marine used it to pursue pirates in their shallow waters of their countries because they were fast and small. And because they were small now we have other definitions like, that the sizes matter. So we have boats, yachts, super yachts, and mega yachts. And I put a little bit things on it that you can already see that when we're talking about that, sometimes on a boat we have GPS, maybe not. Mostly you can drive by vision. The bigger the ships become, the more stuff is on board. For example, this is a super yacht from a TV show in Germany on RTL2. Who knows the Geisen? Who's watching it? Oh, doesn't matter. Okay, so this is their yacht called the Indigo Star, and it is 38.8 meters long, and it's 7.7 meters wide. So this is already the kind of stuff where most of the systems are on board. What kind of systems are on board? So we have some kind of vessel traffic services. It's like airborne traffic services, but in this case for vessels. Then we have automatic identification systems called AIS. Then we have an autopilot sometimes. Of course, we have GPS, not only once, we have a couple of them. We have radar, we have cameras, thermal imaging, engine control systems, internet access, entertainment systems, cloud-based services for access with your tablet, for everything else. Okay, how those stuff is connected together? So the National Marine Electronic Association, the short is NMEA, they have a network, oops, the wrong button. They have a network design. So here is the old standard called NMEA 0183. So it's the serial protocol. Then here we have a converter for that, and this is already a bus system. It's electrically just like the same as in CAN bus. And all those devices are connecting here to the CAN bus, and here is a converter for that. And we have also here an USB gateway for a laptop, and you can also have gateways that are just natively speaking TCP/IP. So we're connecting the CAN bus with an IP system and with a serial system, and all information going together now. So we have here the antennas and wireless stuff and the internet access with GSM or something like that. And as you can see, then you have access from the top to below or the different way up also. So this is only a picture about what kind of connectors you have. They're looking a little bit like the older days when you install CheaperNet. So it's just like T-connectors, and you have to have also terminators and a front at the end of the bus. Okay, so NMEA, the old serial protocol, it was not that fast, but it was already connecting everything what's needed. So echo sounders, sonars, anemometers, gyro compass, GPS, autopilots, and so on. So nowadays, since 2010, we have the NMEA 2000 network. So here we can already have transfer rates like 1 megabit. So there are now also 10 megabit versions out there, but then that's more or less a proprietary protocol then. No, not really a protocol, but it's more or less proprietary stuff from Raymarine. They call it, for example, C-Talk high speed because of 10 megabit. So yeah, I don't know. So when we look then now at these, this is from the C-Talk NG, the NMEA 2000 network, they call it next generation C-Talk. So the old one was C-Talk, that was serial. Then they had the next generation stuff, that is the CAN bus, and then they have the Ethernet, it's then already the high speed stuff. So the interesting thing here on the chart is, this is how the marine stuff connected together. So when we look here at the yellow parts, that are already the stuff for autopilot system. So all these things are for the autopilot. Also here some display units, and here is a remote control unit with some kind of Wi-Fi or whatever. Then here we have the other things, engine controls and so on. So everything connected. The vessel traffic services, yeah, as already said, they're using it in for marine traffic monitoring, and mostly used in harbors to say, okay, this is your position where you can where you can get moored and where you can maybe unload. They're using radar, CCTV, VHF communication, and of course the AIS system. So the next one is then the AIS system. It's some kind of, yeah, how you would say, it's an identification system where it's sending the position, the course that it has, and the call sign number, the vessel name, the owner, for example, and other informations. It is done by VHF, and also there is a version online that can use it over satellite systems. So the AIS system is also using GPS information. So the GPS system is putting their position on the CAN bus. On the CAN bus, all devices are listening to that and grabbing the information from that. Okay, this is the position from the GPS, and I use it for my system. So the AIS using the GPS information and presenting it in the AIS system, and sending also the signal over the VHF as an additional position. Wow. Yeah. What else is done with those information? So the AIS information, for example, then it's used in the electronic chart display in the ACTIS. So here we have then the position of the ship in an electronic chart displayed, and also the position of other ships are displayed there. So, and again, the information displayed here is relying on the GPS information, just sending over to the CAN bus and displayed by all the devices who needed it. So just to keep in mind, we need it later for. Okay. And the last part for the overview, then we have it's the IT equipment. Yeah, it could be, oh, the picture is wrong. Normally there should also be the picture now. Okay, so this is a rack on a 40-meter yacht, fully equipped. So we have a router. We have servers, 3 servers in this case. we have 2 voice over IP gateways. We have a fully equipped 48 port switch, a UPS device, and some other systems. So 10 smart TVs, 1 chart PC, 14 voice over IP telephones on that chip, 1 internet router, the rack, UPS, and 4 Wi-Fi access points for coverage of Wi-Fi on the board. And some other stuff we have. I mentioned that already in the front. So we have smart chips nowadays. So there's some kind of, just like in a smart home, you can control the lighting. You can control the underwater lighting of the ship when you're laying in the harbor, because it looks nicer. You take a tablet, tap on a button there, and then the lights for the underwater lighting goes on, and it looks really good. You can shut down the curtains in the ship. You can have status information about the rudder, about the engine control, about, here you can see it a little bit, the RPM of the engines and the oil temperature and the rudder steering, and so on. So this is accessible via tablets or your mobile phone. And you have also access to your multimedia devices. So you can play music, showing videos, remote control, maybe your smart TV, and so on. And when we put now everything together, then we have a small network. So this is a small network diagram, and here we have already the different attack vectors. So we can just attack it over the internet. It doesn't matter if it is over wireless or GSM or over satellite. Or we can try to attack directly the systems on board. For example, the PC by a spoofed email or a phishing email, for example. So there are websites where you can look up the name of a ship, and then you go on those websites, and then you can search for the crew that is working on those ships. So then you have already names, and maybe sometimes also email addresses, and then it's easy to just directly send them crafted emails and try if something is working. The same thing, we can also try to attack the mobile devices or the Wi-Fi system. And when we have access to those devices already, then we can search for the gateways that have access to the network internally. And the last part is then you can also attack directly the network when you have maybe access to that. So think about you rent one of those ships, and you know next week is Bruce Willis renting those ships. You have now 1 week time to plant your devices on those ships, and he's going on those ships, and then you have access to all the devices on board, and nobody will look up the ship in front of it. So that could be maybe also a possible attack. The attack vectors, as already mentioned, so we have GPS, we can attack IIS, the autopilot, the IT equipment, the cloud-based services, and crew's personal electronic devices. How those attacks working? So now we're coming to the funnier part of the systems. Later I show you also some live demos how it works. The GPS attacking, GPS is the normal name for navigation systems, but the original term is Global Navigation Satellite System, so GNSS. But mostly GPS is easier to say. So when we're talking about GPS, we're mostly talking about Navstar GPS. So that's a US version of the GPS systems. So that was the first one and accessible to most of the devices. And the Russian Federation has its own GPS system. It's called GLONASS. The European Union started their own satellites too. So they're using it, they called it Galileo. And the Chinese version called Beidou. The things that they have all in similar is that they are working on the frequencies of the L1 band. The L5 band is not really used, but the L2 band is encrypted and for military use only. And most of the private stuff is done in the L1 band. So when you then look at the table, it's the right part here. This is only a small set of frequencies that we use. So by knowing the frequencies, then you can easily suggest already, okay, when we know the frequencies, we can jam it. So when we say we can jam it, then we have already one of the two attack scenarios for the GPS systems. Should just jam the signals, nobody will receive a position, and it's impossible for them to navigate or to look up where they are now. They can know, okay, we were there, but now we are in a different place. And spoofing is also a possible thing, but it's a little bit difficult. You have to send faked messages for GPS spoofing, and but you need not only one signal then sent, you have to send 3 different. When you also want to fake the time information, then you already need to send 4 fake messages at the same time. So because you have to, the satellite system is working, when you have 3 satellites, you can directly see the position, you can calculate the position about the signal by calculating the transmitting time. And with the 4th satellite receiving, then you can have also the time information for that. So every satellite is sending at the first pattern the time when the signal was sent, and the receiver is then seeing, okay, I've received now the signal, and it took maybe 20 milliseconds, and then they can calculate, okay, it takes, I must be anywhere on that place. And then by connecting it with 3 of those, then they have the exact position for that. So that's a little bit theory about, but yeah, jamming and spoofing, that are possible solutions. So to make testing, I say testing, to test GPS, there are tools available. So when you have different antennas mounted for that, you have it equipped with battery power, you can also do those tests from a different ship. So you can just buy those devices for testing environments, or when you try to fake your Pokemon Go. When you have some of those devices, you can play all over the world for that. But when you have access to the network, you can also use already software for that. So this is a piece of software that you can download from the website there. And it's then, in this case, it is a serial connection. And as you know, with a serial connection to your NMEA bus, you can send out with this piece of software NMEA messages that's transmitted over the NMEA network of the ship. So with those piece of software and put it on a small Raspberry Pi or whatever, plant it in a ship, you can already gamble with coordinates on those. Yeah, but GPS jamming is quite common because it's easier to do. And so there were many reports about that. So mostly during maneuvers of the military in any areas. So mostly they shut down or make it, make the position information a little bit disturbing. So also for that, a nice information, the last sentence here. The US Navy was not teaching their captains the traditional navigation with sextants. So they stopped anyhow with that. And after a couple of issues they had, so they started again to train their captains in the naval school to navigate with sextants. So normally everyone should be able, as a captain on a ship, to navigate with a sextant. So, okay, but they're doing it now. What else can we do? There is a research project from the DLR. So they have they call it Galant, and they have an 2x2 satellite, a 2x2 antenna area. And with these 2x2 antenna array, they can calculate is the signal sent from the real satellite position, or is it from a spoofed satellite position? So because it comes from a different angle, so the antenna can then calculate, okay, it's coming from different ways, and then you see some RF spectrum about that. And this is, by the way, the antenna. And then you can say, okay, this is a spoof message or not. But it's still in testing phase, but it's working quite good. Yeah, what else we can do? So the AIS information I already said. This is only a couple of messages that is transmitted with that. So you can look at it later. So these information you will see more on web pages, for example. So there's a web page called marinetraffic.com where you can just search for ships, type in the name of the ship, or you can also search for the EMO number or the MMSE number of the ship, or for the call sign, and then you have all the information about the ship. Last time the position received, the status of the ship, in this case it is moored, so it's laying in a harbor on anchor, and so on. How it is working with the AIS. So the AIS system is working over VHF radio and using only 2 channels. So you can using some kind of SDR systems to receive also the messages. And there is already a project for that on rtlsdr.com. So there's already a comparison chart where you can just put it on your HackRF or other devices, and then you can read those informations. You can also send informations with that, but that's illegal for that. So just to mention. Yeah, then we have another system that is dealing with anyhow Wi-Fi. In this case, it's autopilot. I'm started already with that, but not finished. The problem is I have to rely on someone who has a yacht. So I need always testing devices. If someone has one and let me play for a week, you appreciate to contact me later. It's only for working. Okay, this part I want to investigate more. Yeah, in this case, it was a picture, and a sailor friend of me recognized this device here and then said, hey, that's an autopilot system. And then I was thinking, okay, why a 40-meter yacht has an autopilot system with a remote handheld? Okay, this is then, by the way, the remote handheld for that. And then I started to look what it is doing. So you can, when you're driving on autopilot, you can take your handheld and give a new position and a new speed for that. Or you can also type in new waypoints for the ship to navigate to. And it's done remotely. How it is done remotely? So I looked up the FCC ID webpage, searched for the device, and read the information that you can find there. The nice thing is, every time when you have a system that is radio transmitting any kind of signals and is also sold in the US, it is documented in the FCC ID website. So there you can find an information about, okay, it's operating on 2.45 gigahertz, but it's not Wi-Fi. So it's something else. I don't know what it is. I know only it's an Atmega 64 microprocessor they're using on their own Ember Stack protocol. So at that point, I'm stopped now because I have no further information. What I needed now is recordings about the RF signals when someone is typing new position or new speed information. So, and then I can work further with it. But I have different ways. So now we come into the yacht router hacking. So when I was working on those ship, what I mentioned in front of it, I put in place a new internet router for that. It was specialized for maritime equipment, and I was then looking about, okay, what is it? So this is the device. The left one, the biggest thing is the router and the access point itself. And the right one here is a small booster. The booster antenna is then mounted on the Monkey Island. So that's the bar where all the antennas are mounted on the ships. So they call it Monkey Island. I don't know why. I know why, but it's a longer story about that. Okay. So the Wi-Fi booster, it has 1.6 watts electrical energy. With the right antenna, you have already then 15 nautical miles coverage about Wi-Fi. So it's long range. So with the antenna that I have mounted there, I had 25 watt electrical ERP energy on the antenna. So, and also the 4G module should have access up to 30 nautical miles. I was not testing it, but 20 they claimed that it is working. How those systems are working. So there is a nice tablet software, or also for your PC. So it was then the nice story. Everything was finished. The system was working. I introduced the captain, how the system was working, what kind of buttons he has to press, how he get access in the harbor for the devices, and so on. So then I started the software, and we were drinking a bottle of wine. It was a nice evening. And I showed him how the system works. And by the way, I had my Wireshark running because I used my PC for that. So after that, I looked up in the Wireshark protocol and was thinking about, okay, what they are sending. And then I was wondering, because the software uses FTP. It connects with FTP to the router itself. Okay, FTP, username, password, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then it downloads an XML file. Also not that fine. Then when you make changes in the configuration on the PC version, or even also in the tablet version, you make changes in the XML file, and afterwards it's uploaded back to the router. So when you are able to intercept the messages from the control panel to the router itself, then you have access to all those information what you need. Okay, then I was thinking about, okay, they're using now FTP. Yeah, FTP, it's hard-coded credentials in that case. And also some other juicy informations are there. So this is then the FTP connection for that. The username loco, who is familiar with Spanish? Spanish loco means some kind of mad or something like that, but I love the password. Secure connecting user with FTP. What? Okay. Yes. The rest of the Wireshark dump, yeah. And then I was thinking about, okay, what else can I find? I had the downloaded software. By the way, you can download it directly from the web page without anything. You don't have to register for that. Most other software also not from other vendors. Just download it and look what's inside. So in this case, it was a .NET application. I used an IELTS file to analyze it and then look for juicy information in that. So here in the red parts, we have already some kind of usernames and other informations. And then also that part of the program that is responsible for the FTP connection. So here we have again the user name loco, the other things, also the hard code, the fixed IP addresses on the network, and the last part below, the Wi-Fi settings. So this is the default settings. The Wi-Fi password you can change, but who will do when it is not mentioned for them? Okay. So then I was looking for other things. So I started Nmap and looked also, okay, the device is now online in the network. I looked up the IP address of the device and then started scanning from the internet if there is something configured like a firewall or not. So do we need a firewall? I think the developers don't think about that. So yeah, you find some ports that are open. The last port, the 8291 TCP, it's the interesting one because we need it later. And when you see the screenshot here, The basic system of those Yacht routers in this case is an MikroTik router. And this is already the patched version after I reported everything to the vendor. So the patched version is also outdated, and you will see it is vulnerable to another one. Okay. One other thing they have that is remote support. So when you think about remote support, okay, you call someone, I have a problem, okay, you need my IP address, or you download TeamViewer or something like that. Okay, and yeah, then you think, okay, I give them IP address, and then they do something else. So in this case, they don't need anything, only a telephone number and the serial number of the device. And then, why they don't need anything else? So they only needed the serial number and no IP address. How they know it? Because of the device is making a ping back. Every time when it's going online, it's sending the IP address to the vendor, and also have then the information, okay, this device with this IP address is with the serial number, blah, blah, and then they have access to that. Yeah. Next thing for the remote support, how they do the support for that. So the port that we have seen for that is the Winbox management. So you can download the Winbox management software for MikroTik router, and then you can access over that port to the boxes. The only thing that you need is username, password. Remember the username and password for the FTP server. You have access to those devices. Okay. With the Winbox management software, you have then more options to configure the device. You can also configure a firewall, and also some different users. So here you see there is a user loco, that's a user used for the FTP server, and there's a user Jere. Jere is one of the developer, and he is always has access to your box. So I'm not sure if it is a good idea that someone else have access to your box all the time. Okay. When you're not so good in analyzing software and figure out how to find hard-coded credentials, you can also use some kind of those tools, mkbrutos for brute forcing MikroTik routers, or every version below the 6.42, you can use this exploit, just the exploit and the IP address, and it gives you back the username and the password for that. Just as a small hint. Okay, then I contacted the vendor. They responded to it very quickly on the next day already, and then they patched 2 of my 4 things that I mentioned to them. And yeah, it's reported under CVE. And then afterwards I looked up what they patched. Oh, it's missing here. Okay, I looked up what I patched, and in this case they obfuscated only a few things. They obfuscated the part with the passwords and removed the FTP part and switched over to SSH. Okay, now how you can find those boxes? Just use some kind of these OSINT technologies, or go to those marinetraffic.com website, and then you can look up some kind of other informations. Then you find all those stuff, or you can use Shodan. So in Shodan, you're just looking for those devices, maybe for MikroTik routers, and then you have to search for a valid Yacht router for that. But yeah, that I already mentioned. In the patched software, the obfuscating part were only done by the Windows version. So remember, there was an iOS version and there was an Android version. So I take the Android version, put it in ILSpy, and voila, we have it again. So when you obfuscate, then do it right. By the way, there was another nice thing, a small class that called Patch Backbone Data Leak. I don't know where this kind of software is for. Yeah, summary of the patch. it's done. So now we come to the last part because of the SATCOM devices. So Wi-Fi coverage or GSM is not wide enough. So when you're wider on the sea, then you need some connection to over SATCOM. So there you have mostly all over the world. So the problem is patching, how you patch a SATCOM device when you are traveling, and many old versions are online. And I show you a sample about that. So this is already work done by others. They have put some search terms for that. When you look up those terms in Shodan, you will find all of the other things. Then look for the exploits for that, and then you find some information. So what I found was, you can also use the shiptracker.shodan.io, but they're using only the VSAT SATCOM boxes. And I don't like the web page, it's a little bit buggy. So what I found then was a different thing. So I was looking for some kind of antenna system, some kind of Yacht routers from different ways. And yeah, then I find a thing that called digital antenna solutions. Okay, digital antenna solutions, that sounds good. Let's dig deeper in that. So then to make it easier, my search term in Shodan is then here server, micro digital web server. And then when you take that we can take here now in a demo. I have already Shodan here open. I take my, you don't see something, that's bad. Come on, I change it. I think now you see something. Okay, I use here the search term, and then you find, okay, 20 boxes are online now. You have to take then these with the bubbles here, and okay, just take one in the United Kingdom. You just click on the web page. Maybe this one was not a good one, because it was already SSL. Let's take this one. Yeah, over satellite is a little bit slow. Not reachable. Dum, 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 dum. Ah, here is a web page coming. And by the way, it's a little bit old version. It's the version 1.6.4. And okay, now we have a log-on screen. How to bypass now those log-on screens. So you can read the user manual. There are username and password in the documentation of the of this system. But there's another way that you can use. Just look for the source code of the web page. Where's my plus? So this one is nice. JavaScript user login Java. So when we click on that, we have already here now, you can scroll a little bit down, and the funny part is coming now. Okay, I have some URLs. Now I take this URL and try a little bit. Dun, 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 dun. It's slow, and voila. That's it. So I'm logged in now as the dealer, as the manufacturer of the device, on the ship My HANA, and my position is currently anywhere here, and I don't know where it is. By the way, it's now logging out because of the security of the system. But yeah, when you set the referral parameter correctly, then you can stay on the web pages. And yeah. Okay, switch back to my presentation to show you the last 2 minutes. Shift F5. Okay, so that was the demo. And yeah, that was the part with the menu and the pictures about that. And the things of the documentation. So CTEL 3, 2, or 1 defines you the level of access. 3 is the highest level, and so on. After I found it, I looked up, okay, maybe someone has found it already or not. Luckily, unluckily, I found out that someone else has found it already also and reported it. He was a little bit faster than I. But the CVE report is only for one version. I figured out all those kind of versions are vulnerable to the same version. I have also one, the 186 version. It's from this year. So that was the latest version. And yeah, the vendor has fixed it now with the version 200, and there are 20 boxes online also that are not fixed yet. So what else you can do with those devices? I showed now here all the menus that are available for that, or a couple of them only. So the funny part is you can use the file admin menu or the firmware upload part, so you can upload just a new firmware for that. Or when you make a DDoS attack against those antenna systems, just change the antenna configuration for that. Put it on a new antenna, and then they have no internet connections on a high C anymore. So that's some kind of denial of service you can do with that. Or just reboot it all the time. Make a script and just let it reboot. I'm not sure if it is funny, but yeah, it is possible. Yeah, what is the risk for those devices? You can increase the costs or make denial of service for that. So what I could not show today is I have an additional one. I have it mentioned here. So I have another satellite system where I have found out that you can get access to the configuration file of the thing. So you just send some crafted packets to those box. And it's generating an INI file with all the configuration patterns and also the username and password for the system. And it's putting then the information in a temporary file on the website where you can later go there and download it without authentication. So, but the details, yeah, when it is fixed, then I can publish the complete details about that. And yeah. What's next? The last thing, they're going more and more in cloud services. So cloud services, yeah, it's nice to use. The part that we had here, now they're going in the cloud, and then you have access to your ship from all over the world. You can look up how your ship is running, maybe when you're a charterer, and so on. Yeah. And coming to the last parts now, the NMEA gateways, some research has to be done on that. Problem with patching of the SATCOM boxes is, yeah, when there is time for. The VTS system, it's, yeah, I only know about one thing that is really done now, but most of them is unexplored also. The autopilot stuff, for example, is also missing. And in injecting NMEA messages, I'm currently also working on. So I have a small GPS receiver, a system on a chip. It's sending plain text NMEA messages to the serial bus, and I'm gambling in my lab setup with that now. Yeah. Special thanks to you for attending my talk, for Hack.lu to having me here again. Yeah, I'm the cavalry also, because it's a great platform to share thoughts and share information with others around the world. Brian Satira and Brian Olsen, they gave at the DerbyCon a really good talk about, they called it hacking a primer on today's pirate. So it's a similar thing, not only yachts. So they are focusing more on commercial ships and the propulsion systems and the vulnerabilities in the propulsion systems and the ICS system that they found there. So it's really, really, really interesting stuff. When you put now together my things and their things, then you have already some kind of remote control of that. Yeah, and my employer for that I can also be here, and all my friends around the world. Yeah, may the force be with you. Thank you.
Any questions here in the room? Or you just...
Thank you for your presentation. Great stuff. I must be honest, I couldn't withstand temptation to rename all these vessels to Titanic. So you didn't so far?
I don't.
Okay, respect.
Ethical hacking.
Okay, any more?
Mülle nicht in den Daten anderer, ne?
Any more questions or...
Here's another one. By the way, by renaming it on the web page, it's only in the display, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Did you already try to hack CAN bus of the car? Because they are...
No, on the car not. So I know about that, yes, but I'm not gambled with that. Yeah, not really. I'm using small devices to reset the mill lamp in my car, because the malware indicator lamp is always flashing up, and then I have to reset it. And that I'm doing, yes.
Any more?
Someone else? Otherwise, you can catch me up later here anywhere.
Anybody with a yacht in the room that's worried? Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.